It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
This May on EdTech Mondays Nigeria, we're discussing the theme Beyond the Classroom, Alternative Pathways to Learning and Earning. Nigeria is home to one of the largest youth populations in the world, with over 70% of its young people under the age of 30. Yet millions of these young people, particularly adolescents and young adults, remain excluded from formal education pathways, limiting their access to skills, employment, and economic mobility. At the same time, new opportunities are emerging. Across the country, the digital, gig, and creative sectors are expanding rapidly, enabling young people to earn income through freelance work, content creation, and digital services. This presents a critical opportunity. Learning does not have to be confined to traditional classrooms. Alternative pathways can equip our young people with relevant, market-ready skills while opening up new routes to sustainable livelihoods. So today, we ask, what does learning look like for young people beyond the four walls of a traditional classroom? Welcome to the May edition of EdTech Mondays Nigeria, a platform where we have critical conversations about leveraging technology to improve teaching and learning. My name is Nisi Madu, and I am the managing partner at CC Hub, and I will be your host for this edition. Over the next 4 episodes, we'll explore how technology is enabling alternative routes to learning and earning for young people through technical and vocational education and training, TVET, micro-certifications and modular learning, digital platforms and the gig economy, informal and community-based learning. We'll examine how these pathways are shaping access, opportunity, and inclusion. For this episode, I have really amazing guests with me in the studio. Our first guest is the co-founder and CEO of SUWK Technologies Limited, a vocational education company reimagining how trade skills are learned, taught, and scaled for the future of work. SUWK is empowering underserved youth with digital and vocational skills that enable them to transition from learning to earning. Let's welcome the co-founder and CEO of SUWK Technologies, Chioma Ukpabi. Hi, Chioma. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Hello, Nisi. Thank you so much. It's also a pleasure to be on the show today.
Brilliant. And our second guest is the director at the Center for Research Support and Grants Management at Yaba College of Technology, where she champions transformative change in girls' education and technology. Under her leadership, GESP Yaba Tech has successfully trained over 5,250 young girls aged 13 to 24 in 4 high-demand, male-dominated ICT skills areas and empowered 400 young women with startup toolkits to launch their tech careers. Let's welcome Dr. Fumilayo Doherty. It's a pleasure to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Now we're going to go straight into the conversation. And Chioma, I'm going to start with you, the first question to you, and Dr. Doherty, I'm also going to come to you with that question. And Chioma, my first question to you is, so a lot of times we think about edtech solutions, right? And when people think about edtech solutions, they think about edtech solutions in the classroom or in formal education settings. But SUWK decided to focus on TVET, to focus on empowering underserved youth with the skills required to learn, to convert learning to earning. So what are the critical things that you had to take into consideration in terms of designing your edtech solution to fit into non-traditional classroom settings for empowering young people with the skills required to chart a different future for themselves?
I think I always get excited when I'm being asked, and I'm always happy to, talk about how we are doing what we do, because everyone just thinks edtech, and then the first thing they think of is, it's tech skills, it's digital skills, you understand, formal skills. But we went to TVET because we figured out that these people actually need an innovation in what they're doing, right? And most of the time, when people are trying to, build EdTech products, the first thing they think of is, maybe our learners are literate. They must be able to navigate one or two things. There should be stable internet, right? And then at the same time, they are looking for people that will say, okay, you know what, come sit down and learn. But in all honesty, most of the time, the kind of people that we speak with, especially these are young people that are out of jobs, young people that might have it kind of difficult wanting to continue, formal education after secondary school. So most of the time, what they've done is they've gone into the system. They're looking for anything they could do, any skill they could learn, any job they could do. So most of the time, we think about, instead of building a product that is beautiful for people that already understand what it is like, or people that could even wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I could just learn this from anywhere and start something. We started building for the young people. So we put into consideration a lot of things. These people might have already started life in between. They need something that can, guide them through. But at the same time, we also paid attention to the fact that they also need to be able to track what they're learning at the end of the day so that they can look back and say, oh, this is what I've learned. Because traditionally, people that want to learn skills, they just come every day, see me, watch what I'm doing, and that's it. But we needed to build something that beyond just seeing the tutor teach you what the tutor is teaching you, we needed these learners to be able to say, yes, this is where I am at the moment, this is where I started from, and this is where I've grown to. And then over the years, with helps and, partnerships and learnings, we've been able to take feedbacks and keep building it. So the first thing we did was pay attention to the life of these people that we are trying to help, because most of the time they're people that are looking for jobs. And then the second thing we did was we built something that even in between life, they could navigate through it.
Thank you very much, Chioma. And I think you've touched on a number of things that my second question will touch on. But from what you shared, it's important, first off, to understand these young people, their unique situations and realities. And you mentioned that one of it was, they're trying to find jobs, right? And they're also trying to still find jobs in between, other things that life is throwing at them. And so you had to make sure that the way that you were formalizing or designing your EdTech solution needed to take those things into consideration. Thank you very much. Dr. Doherty, coming to you, you've done a really amazing job with the GSP program. And you talked about, your bio talks about 4 in-demand skills that program focused on. Now, we often hear that there's a disconnect, right, between training that young people receive and what is required in industry or what is required for them to be able to get jobs. So from your experience, can you share a bit with us about how did you settle on those skills, that the program decided to focus on? And what is your own perspective on where that gap is between training and helping young people to actually build the skills for jobs?
We had to look at the skill that was not really common with young girls. And that was why we went for the male-dominated ones, because we wanted to close that gender gap also. And it took a lot of encouragement, the girls, because it was a space for men, actually. And anytime the girls, go into, a room and find all men, they are kind of shy, timid. So it took a lot of encouragement for us. And at a point, we didn't even find any female mastercraft for phone repairs, for computer repair. It was really challenging. We had just 1 or 2 even at the computer village. Now, when it comes to closing the gap, most of the time, because talking from the academic perspective, we, the academia, we just, go into training without carrying out partnership with the industry. So it's usually supply driven and not demand driven. For those 4 skills, they are actually demand driven. And we wanted the situation where we didn't just want to train. We wanted the girls to, we wanted something that will help them improve their livelihood and for them to be also be able to generate some income. So the first thing we did was to partner with the industry, those in that space, in developing the curriculum, co-designing it, co-delivering it, the training. So it's not just we from the academia doing the whole thing. So we involved the mastercrafts from the computer village. And we also had to train them, actually, because we use the National Skills Qualification Framework, the National Occupational Standards. And many of these mastercrafts are not aware of this. Yeah, so we had to do an initial training for those coming from the industry, train them using that curriculum, the National Occupational Standard. We also gave them a lot of training, even in terms of gender responsive pedagogy. How do you train a girl child different from, the boy child? Understanding the need of that girl. And then also when it comes to prevention of sexual harassment, we also had to, because these core skills were male dominated. So we had to do all this training, train them before we could even start.
Okay. Thank you very much. And just to double click a little bit on that, is you mentioned phone repair. Yes. What are the other three?
Computer hardware maintenance, repair, web application development, and mobile app.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, man. And that's really interesting. And I'm going to come back with more questions on a number of the things that you mentioned. But the first one was that they were in-demand skills. So you had to connect with industry first to say, what are the things that what skills can we empower these young girls with that take them from just learning to earning? Because you said something which was very important. We didn't just want to train them for training's sake. It was about empowering them with the skills for livelihood. And that was one of the things, that led to identifying those 4 skill areas. Thank you very much, ma'am. Chioma, coming over to you, I know that SUWK, focuses on a number of different areas as well. Can you talk to us a bit about what skill areas that SUWK focuses on, and what are some of and this is going back to your initial comment about you wanted to make sure that the way you designed SUWK to deliver the learning to these young people was very flexible. So as you talk about some of these skill areas, can you also highlight some of the key considerations or key design elements within how SUWK delivers its training that takes into consideration that flexibility that is required for these young people to be able to participate in the learning process?
We currently run about 9 vocational programs. From the top of my head, I would call them. The first is fashion designing, makeup artistry, solar installation, sustainable furniture making, painting, barbing, leather works, and a couple of 2 more, right? So, and the thing is, we noticed a couple of things. Like I mentioned already, these young people, some of them have been out of school for a very long time. So they're not in the space of learning. So everything about them is just that very quick. We want to do everything very quick. Let's quickly learn something and just start making money from it. So we noticed that most of them were always, especially from the early stage of what SUWK used to be, we noticed a lot of them were very finding it challenging to be able to understand how informations were presented. So I'm going to give an instance. Most of the time when you have to make them read something very long, they find it very difficult to, understand. Or when you're just sitting down or going through a lecture for like an hour or 2 without letting them stretch, trying to put them in that box of wanting to learn, it was always a problem. So what we did was we took into consideration all those things, the fact that we needed to understand that some people's literacy level were not almost at the same. Yes, they might be in same environment, but at the same time, they're learning, capacities are always different. So what we did was we started introducing it in such a way that it was more demonstration-led and bit-sized, right? When we were creating most of our courses, we started paying attention to, okay, instead of taking this course as it is, we can divide it into A, B, C. Instead of you coming in and just seeing that, oh, this is how to rewire something, and then you now start learning how to wire at once. We break it down. When we know that this information is an information overload, back end, we can tell ourselves that, no, instead of putting this out with the help of, a sound curriculum, let's divide this into parts. Let's make this part A, part B, so that the students can be able to assimilate. And why did we do this? Like I mentioned earlier, some people have already gone into jobs. So they are already in jobs around what they are learning, but at the same time, they don't really know so much about what they're actually in those jobs. So we wanted a situation whereby if you learn today in the morning and then you said, okay, today is 10 o'clock, the shop where I work opens by 10 o'clock and I close by 5, and you go away and come back by 6 o'clock when you're done with everything, and you say, okay, let me open back and from where I stopped and start learning again. It's not like as if you even left for a very long time. It's like, okay, I did it to A. And this is something that even when you are even learning maybe in the early hours, I can say, you know what, because it's not so long, I can finish part A of this course and then continue back in the evening again of part B. And even if every day I'm doing it part by part or one lesson or one module by one module, I'm okay and I can learn. So we put all this into consideration in such a way that even if you go away for a week or 2 days and you come back, you're going to learn, except in situations whereby, some partner organizations that we're working with has a particular cohort and they already have things they've told their beneficiaries that are learning on our platform that, you need to finish at this particular time, except that. But we also made it such a way that even if you are in such a cohort as well, it's something that you are not feeling left out. Everything is just happening seamlessly. And it's like as if you went to a class and then you're coming back after break, to continue learning as well. So we made sure that all those things were put into considerations, following them so that they can say at the end of the day, when they even learn, they say, yes, I really understand this thing because I follow this step by step. This class broke it down to me in such a way that I can understand and I can follow. And it's like as if I'm in this space with the tutor that is actually taking that particular course.
Thank you very much, Chioma. I think you highlighted two interesting things there. One is, in terms of flexibility, you were also thinking about the unique situation of the learners. So there are those of them who are already working in this space, but they needed to have more information, and you were thinking about how to design that, taking that into consideration, but also having bite-sized courses that make it easy for them to consume or to learn when they have the time, as well as also making sure that it's simple enough and not too complex, given whatever competency levels that the learners are at. Now, Dr. Doherty, you mentioned something very interesting when you were talking about the program. You talked about there was an intentionality to get more women or more girls into male-dominated skill areas or fields. And there were a number of things that you had to think about in designing that program and designing the learning to take that into consideration. You touched on a few, which was things that, how do you make sure the girls feel confident and comfortable? How do you make sure that you're also protecting them from whatever sexual harassment or abuse might come into play within that situation? Is there more you can share with us about critical things that you had to do in designing that program to make sure that the girls could feel comfortable and you could empower them with the skills, especially in male-dominated areas?
Apart from some of the things that I've mentioned, we also supported them with startup toolkits, because it's important when you are training, you don't just train and then leave them stranded. You need to support, these young people. So we ensure that we gave some of them startup toolkits, and then mentorship, structured mentorship from the industry was also one of the things that we did. And we had a partnership with Vodafone UK. So every week, they took them through public speaking, confidence, teamwork. And many of the girls who initially they come in timid, they can't even face their colleagues. And then after going through the soft skills, in addition to technical skills, they are very, very confident. And I'm so proud of many of the young girls, because that confidence in them is just superb, and it's helping them because they're going out there, showcasing themselves, getting even more opportunities. So I would say soft skills is not just the technical. We were concentrating on hands-on, but we also tried to integrate that soft skills, which was like a total package. Because when you talk about competency is giving them the knowledge, giving them the skills, and then also the attitude. So we ensure that it was a holistic package for the young girls. Even their attitude. Many of them came with very bad attitude. But I'll tell you that some people, you can have the technical skill, but if your attitude is very poor, you may not get that opportunity. And these are some of the things that helped. We tried to, build into that particular program. And we are seeing the results. We see the girls very confident. We see how they behave, and we see how they interact, and the numerous opportunities that they are getting. And many of them have also gotten jobs. Some of them got jobs with one of the big phone repair companies in Nigeria. I don't want to mention the name, because we co-developed that program with them. So they felt confident in even hiring those girls. But if we had done that all alone, they will not be confident enough to even hire them.
That's very true. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Doherty. And I mean, I'm going to come back with more questions on some of the things you mentioned, but just to pick key highlights from what you shared, is that while there's a focus on empowering them with the technical skills, there were a lot of things that still needed to happen to make sure that they were really prepared, you know, to take up jobs in industry. And one of that was on the soft skills. So soft skills being able to, one, build their confidence, to be able to know that, yes, not just do I have these technical skills, but I have absolutely what it takes to be able to, you know, push that forward. And to what you were saying about attitude as well, I'm sure that there was the bit of work you had to do about just even perception of the girls believing that a girl can do, you know, this type of, or build skills in this type of male-dominated areas. And I'm sure those were also things that were incorporated into that program. And thank you very much for sharing. As we heard on this episode, learning is no longer confined to traditional classroom. It thrives in alternative pathways designed for young people eager to pursue non-formal education and skills development. As always, we'd like to hear from you. So share your thoughts with us on social media or via SMS or WhatsApp at 0703 165 0809 or call 0706 402 0742. Remember, the conversation does not end here. Continue the conversation on our WhatsApp and Telegram channels and catch past episodes on Spotify, EdTech Mondays Nigeria, and YouTube, CC Hub Africa. Until next time, I remain your host, Nisi Madu. Bye for now.
Tech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.